Welcome to Extracurricular. I am your co-host, Eddie Geller.
And I am your other co-host, Stephanie Vanos. Am I on the school board for Orange County Public Schools? Yes, I am, but I am here, as I always am, unofficially.
You're switching it up. I feel like you are still just kind of changing it up to keep yourself interested.
Our listeners need it.
I do feel like I am putting an unfair burden on you every time that you have to say that, because I'm not an elected official, so I don't have to say a disclaimer at the beginning of the podcast.
But do you want to have a tagline?
I would love a tagline, but I have not earned a tagline, so I'm taglineless.
Well, you do lead the scoreboard for hockey goals, true or false?
I did that for those 1 week. I'm no longer the leading scorer in our hockey league. Okay, welcome to the show. If you're here for the first time, so happy to have you. This is a big show for us. We have Aaron Parnas today, and I'm excited to talk about that for a moment. But I feel like, well, certainly we are feeling the weight of the events of this past weekend. I'm sure the listeners are too. So I just want to take a moment before we sort of get into the show just to, acknowledge that this was a terrible weekend. The murder of Alex Pretti in front of our eyes on screens across the globe, gunned down by a ICE agent. And then the fact that we are going through the same pattern of gaslighting from this administration, that we didn't see what we saw, and that it's the fault of the victim that they were killed. And there's this rush by Minnesota to preserve evidence because none of us believe that a real investigation is going to happen. It feels like a lot right now.
It does. My 17-year-old, I was talking to her earlier this week, and she was telling me, Mommy, I have read so much about history, and what I see happening now makes me feel like we're about to have a revolution of some kind. And I don't think that's overstating what's happening. I mean, we are watching in front of our eyes laws be broken and constitutional rights be violated, and honestly, people getting away with it. And it's scary.
Yeah, I think since Trump was inaugurated, we have just been bum rushed by corruption and brute force and cruelty and illegality, et cetera, et cetera. And every time it seems like there's nothing they can do to shock us. And then this is yet again shocking, even though, again, it is an iteration of what they did to Rachel Good. I think... saying that anything is a silver lining I don't think there is a silver lining. I don't know. But I just want to say that the resilience and bravery of the people of Minnesota and before them in Chicago and Los Angeles is heartening. I mean, these folks in Minnesota, if you're in Minnesota, we hope you're safe. The resilience and the what they have done to stand up and make their voice heard and document everything that's going on is truly heartening. And I think the fact that all of this is happening, and it feels like maybe this weekend is some sort of turning point. I don't know what it is turning to, frankly, but some sort of turning point in which people are more people are opening up their eyes to what is happening in this country. Feels real. And I feel like that is because the people of Minnesota have stood up and said, we don't want ICE here, and we're going to document what's happening. We're going to stand up, and we're going to get out when it's below freezing, below 0 degrees, whatever. I'm very heartened by them.
I am too. I heard a commentator, a reporter at one point refer to the middle-aged Midwesterners, and they're not taking it. And as a former Midwesterner, well, always a Midwesterner, I so appreciated that comment. And it's true. I mean, it's freezing temperatures. They're out there. They're fighting. The numbers are so, I think, invigorating. And I think it really does give at least me hope that people care and they're out there. And I also want to add, if you are in a place that maybe is not doing that and you care and you want to, make one move in the right direction, you can contact your senator, your representatives, and just let them know that you oppose additional funding for ICE and want there to be enforcement and rules that are followed. So there are things, little steps that each and every one of us can take to move in the right direction.
Absolutely. Well said. And as we are recording this, we're recording this on Sunday, and this will be out Monday morning. What is going to happen this week with government funding is up in the air. The Democrats have said, and Chuck Schumer have said, that they are all aligned, no more funding for DHS under, like, with everything that is going on. What that will eventually mean is none of us know. But I'm heartened to see that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are standing up. But also a reminder that it is a handful of Republicans could stop all of this, could stop this lawlessness. There could be impeachment proceedings, yada, yada. They could have another Republican who's not corrupt and whatever in the place of either our president or any one of these Senate confirmed positions. But they are all too scared to go against the regime, which actually I'm going to use this as a transition because this is something Aaron talked a bit about, because we were asking a bit about behind the scenes. So let's talk about that for a moment. How did you enjoy talking to Aaron this week?
Oh, it was wonderful. I know that you know Aaron from a past life. This was the first time that I met him over virtually, at least. And I thought it was a really good conversation. And he did touch on, I think one of us asked about the temperature of elected officials and leaders. And he, made the comment that there was sort of a defeatist attitude, that there were Democrats who felt like they had no power to do anything, and that there were Republicans who see what's going on and do believe it's wrong, but they also don't want to be bullied on whatever the new Twitter
social.
is, whatever, or primaried or anything like that.
You don't have an official school board account on Truth Social? Are you telling me that?
Never will. But I thought that was, and I do believe, I don't know, maybe I'm just the optimist, but I truly do believe that there are good people, lots of good people on both sides and in both parties, and we need them to stand up now. The time is to stand up now, and the time is to really say the things, vote the right way that preserves our democracy.
Well, I mean, I think the time to stand up would have been a little while ago, but your point is well taken. Now would be a better time than any. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. That's the cliche, I believe. In any case, there are no cliches in our interview with Aaron Parnas. He was so kind to come on to give us some of his time. So we're excited for you to listen to that interview. But before we get into the interview, hopefully we have some new listeners. It's so funny. We talked to Aaron, and then the next day, Aaron's like, oh, hey, my audience, I'm starting a podcast. And for normal folks who start a podcast, we're like, oh, we hope we have, like dozens of listeners. That would be incredible. Aaron starts his podcast. He's in the top 10 of iTunes podcasts. So just incredible work. And he's done amazing work building his platform and keeping people informed. So we're grateful to have him on the show and really hope you enjoy the interview. But I do want to say, if you're listening for the first time, please do consider subscribing. Consider rating us on iTunes. Steph, what should they rate us?
5 stars only.
5 stars only. Please follow us on Instagram, extracurricular_podcast. And if you're new and you're like, what is this podcast that Aaron has come on to? We talk politics. We talk education. Sometimes it's Florida centric. Sometimes it's national. And Steph, as you alluded to at the beginning of this podcast, you are an elected member of the Orange County Public School Board. And you're here, you said you're here officially, right?
Incorrect.
Okay.
Unofficially today and always.
Oh, sorry, you were going to say something.
And I just want to add, I think that a piece of education, whether it's education law or education policy, but also just educating listeners on topics of interest, whether that's politics or a lot of times just demystifying processes, demystifying what happens in our government and local government is really an important piece to me as well.
Oh, that was beautiful. You did the education and the educating. That was like, you should stick around for segues like that. You're going to get those by the dozen if you subscribe to this podcast, you keep joining us. And I like to think that I hold you accountable as an elected official. Do you feel like that you're held accountable?
Oh, I do.
And I would like, before we go to the interview, I want to hold you accountable. We didn't talk about this, but I'm putting your feet to the fire right now. For months, I have said, Steph, can we please watch this movie? K-pop Demon Hunters that everyone else in the world has seen. I think we should see it together. And you're like, okay, yes, at some point we can watch it. And then what happened last night? Tell the listeners.
I'm just saying, my daughter put on the movie.
Oh,
I had no control, and I was in the room. I'm not going to leave. I'm, hanging with my kids. Like, that's what we did. So we started watching it actually this afternoon. So, but, doesn't mean we can't watch it again.
Okay.
And it was very good so far.
Okay, that's everything I told you is that it's very good. And now you've seen 20 minutes more than I have. You may watch more of it tonight. What is happening to us?
I don't know, but I think we need to get to the interview with Aaron.
That's a good point. Thank you so much for sticking around. Enjoy this interview with Aaron Parnas, and we hope to see you again sometime. Aaron Parnas, welcome to the Extracurricular Podcast. Thank you so much for coming on, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited.
Well, we're so grateful to have you. Well, let's just start off with this. Aaron, 4.7 million followers on TikTok, 2.1 million on Instagram. Maybe that's been updated since the last time I checked these stats.
Last night,
670,000 on Substack. You're a big deal. I mean, you've always been a big deal to me since I've known you. But I'm curious for folks who maybe don't kind of know your background and just see you when they're scrolling and like, why is this guy on my feed all the time? Can you just tell us a bit like how you got here, like how this started and how you've sort of been able to build the following that you have?
Yeah, let me preface this by saying that I never wanted to be here. Right? This was never the goal. I was a lawyer. I graduated law school in 2020 at GW during the pandemic and thought I was going to be a lawyer for the rest of my life. My goal was to be a public defender for decades. Like that was the dream.
Oh, I love that.
And yeah, and I started working as a lawyer, as a fledgling lawyer, and about a year and a half, 2 years into my legal career, Russia invaded Ukraine. And at the time, my family in Ukraine, I still do, but my family in Kiev was experiencing a lot of horrific things on the ground. And they were telling me every single day, like, oh, this new bomb dropped, right? These new tanks rolling down the streets. Here's what I'm hearing from my own government. And then I would turn on American news here in the United States, and I would feel like I'm living in a dystopian world because of completely two different things I'm hearing. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just try to do something for them and amplify their stories. And I started TikToking. And within a week, I had 1 million followers on TikTok who were interested in learning more about Ukraine and what my family was experiencing on the ground. They were my first-hand source, so to speak. 6 months of doing that consistently while also practicing law full-time was an experience. And then my TikTok account then got completely banned after being mass reported by Russian trolls. Never got the account back. I was like, you know what, screw it. I went and clerked for a federal judge, continued working as a lawyer. And then for some reason, I guess in early 2024, I had this itch again to start doing this work again, but specifically like expanding the work to more like news and just politics and legal topics. And so did that, and kind of the rest is history. Now I've gone full time doing this for over a year, and it's been an amazing journey.
I'm curious about why you think people are following you. What is it about what you're doing or how you're saying or how you are, I don't know, reporting it, I guess. What is it that makes people want to follow you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of a few things. I think number one is just authenticity, right? I think a lot of people say social media isn't real life, and I would tend to agree with them. But for me, social media is real life. The way I present myself on screen is the way I'm with my wife, is the way you see me on the streets. It's the exact same thing. That's number one. I think number two is kind of the way I deliver the news in a way. To me, perfect is the enemy of good.
Yeah.
I hate consultant speak. I hate big words. When I was a lawyer, I was practicing in front of a jury of 6 or 12 people, and many of them have never even stepped foot in a courtroom before. And you have to explain complex topics in a way they can understand and that they stay interested in for hours on end. And so that's the same way I approach my kind of content creation, is talk to people like they're normal people. And oftentimes when you see the news, everyone is like so prim and prop and perfect. And I was just never like that. I feel like mainstream media in a way is like the boarding school kids that you grew up with that like
Yep.
were always like daddy's money. and then me, I'm just like scrapping by, making content and just doing what I can.
Well, I think it's so important. You know, I talked to Steph a lot about, and we'll get into more of this, but we are in a sea of like misinformation and grifters and what have you. And I feel like, and granted, you're a journalist, you're reporting the news, but you have spoken publicly, you voted for Kamala, I think it is so important that like progressive outlets, whatever you want to phrase it, like get a foothold on these platforms and continue to grow. And I know when I see you post, and proud as you should be of your platform growing and going up there. I was wondering if you can like talk like why this is so important. Like, I feel like there's just so many folks who just like don't understand that like it is actually really important that we have creators and journalists and reporters who understand these algorithms and understand how to reach people.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and you said I voted for Kamala. I did. I mean, I tell everyone, I wish people didn't know who I voted for.
Yeah.
I wish people didn't know where I stood on various issues. I had to do that to kind of define myself, given a whole host of fun family things that I've been through. But I really think that people have a major distrust in just the general institutions that have been there for years, that have been there to protect us, and they have seen institutions fail time and time again, especially over this past year. And where they have failed, it has allowed independent folks like myself to kind of fill that void. And I tell everyone, like, I'm not competing with legacy media. I'm not competing with these institutions. My audience is very different. It's people who, A, are sick and tired of them and won't watch them, or B, are young people who don't have a TV, have never even opened up a newspaper, and just get news from social media. And so I think that we need to be filling these gaps where we can with just accurate information. And I tell everyone this, Kamala Harris would have won the election if there were just more people spreading accurate information.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when people learn the truth about what's actually happening on various issues, they tend to vote blue. That just is what. So yeah.
Well, it's funny you mention, failures of the mainstream media, and I like the first thing I think of is the Iraq War, which is like when I sort of came of age in politics. Like, do you think we, like, with everything going on with this Trump administration, do you think we're in the middle of a mainstream institutional failure in journalism, or do you think we're doing any better this time around?
No, we are in an institutional failure in journalism.
Yeah.
We are 100%. But it's not, and I say this a lot, it's not the individual journalists, right? Like, there's some really good journalists within these institutions. It's the institutions themselves. The Washington Post, that failing to endorse Kamala despite you having an opinion board willing to endorse, that was a failure of the institution, and that's where it kind of began. And then since then, you've seen some of the stuff that these legacy media outlets have been putting out that are just kind of sane washing what's happening. You see CBS doing a nightly broadcast, kind of both sidesing the January 6th insurrection. They refused to air the CCOT 60 Minutes episode, only to air it during Sunday Night Football when no one would be watching. So, I mean, it's fear. Legacy media outlets are generally fearful of what this administration could do to them. And because of that, they have failed to actually promote the truth on a daily basis, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was just say, I don't think it's just legacy media. I was just actually listening to an interview this morning with Rahm Emanuel, and he was talking about corporate America and talking about how they have really failed everyday people. And I think he used the word, they call them timid souls. And it seems a lot of what legacy media has also done. They sort of are watching what's happening and not using their platform to speak up or say anything. And I think it's destroying America.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I tell everyone that, like, the three pillars of legacy institutions have fallen: the universities, the media, and the law firms, right? Those three have fallen. They were meant to protect us. They have failed us. And it's only going to continue because right now, when you give a bully what they want, they only continue to bully you.
Right.
If you don't stand up to a bully, it's going to continue to happen. And so no one stood up, and now people are surprised that it's happening.
I mean, maybe someday I'll stand up to Steph, but until that day, I'm just going to keep getting bullied.
I'm wondering, as your platform has grown, has that changed your perspective?
On what?
Well, I purposely didn't complete that because I don't know, has it changed your perspective on reporting and journalism? Has it changed your perspective on a particular topic? Has it changed your perspective on politicians, democracy?
Yeah, I mean, in some respects it has, obviously. I think one way it's changed my perspective is that a lot of politicians just like to go on these platforms and just to spew the same bullshit that every other politician does. And like, I kind of created a new rule with my platform. I'm not going to have a politician on if you're just going to come on here and talk about how good Medicare is. Like, we all know that.
Yeah.
Like, you have to give me something of substance and something different. So I think that's number one. I think number two, my perspective has definitely changed in the sense of how easy it is to actually spread information. Like, people look at like cable news or print news or some of these people even in the White House or on Capitol Hill, and they're like, oh my God, it is so hard to get to where they are. It is actually not that hard to get to where they are. Like, a lot of these people are paper dragons in the sense of like they have a great title or like they have this like put themselves on this pedestal, but behind the scenes, it's like they're really nothing. Like, there's not much of substance there, and it's very easy to break into this world. That's how my perspective has changed. And I guess the third thing, kind of piggybacking off of that, is it's very easy to spread misinformation. Like, these algorithms are designed to spread outrage and fear. And I could probably put out tomorrow that a nuclear war is on the horizon, and it'll get millions of views. It will. And it'll get like the entire internet talking about it for like 48 hours. And then it'll get on cable. It is scary how easy it is to kind of impact and like influence this ecosystem.
Yeah, it is really upsetting. I mean, this has been talked about for a while, but I just saw another article from Fox. Like, a huge part of why we're in the global catastrophe, not just the US catastrophe we're in, is because we're all addicted to these social media algorithms, which are just designed to make us angry and promote for the most outrageous stuff. And so we've all been primed to just be like, to share the most intense thing and to feel the most intense thing and to have that dynamic with other people. So, I mean, which is to say that like, you are both a necessary part of this ecosystem because for all the reasons we talked about, that we need real information on there, but also like you also have to be deft at these platforms which do prioritize these things. So it seems like it's a tricky balance. But that actually makes me think about, we are talking on Friday morning, January 23rd, the morning after the deal for TikTok has closed. And so that's something I want to ask you about. So, and if you don't mind maybe talking through for viewers who don't know, like, what is happening to TikTok? And I'm curious, we also have CBS under Ellison control. Like, how worried should people be about the consolidation of media, about TikTok? Curious your take.
Oh, extremely worried. I mean, I don't know what the future of TikTok is. It's been not even 24 hours.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to see what happens next with that platform. But I think the consolidation of media and social media is something that needs to be talked about more, because for a Republican Party that is so anti-monopoly, they are actively promoting one of the biggest monopolies that is growing right before. And at a point, it's going to get so powerful that breaking it apart is going to be nearly impossible.
Yeah.
So I think that what we are seeing, and it's interesting, it goes back to, or takes me back to Biden's last speech in the Oval Office, his last address to the nation. He talked about this like new rise in the oligarchy. And to me, that really is what's happening in the media space. You have very wealthy and powerful people taking over very powerful platforms. You have Elon taking over Twitter, which is now X, even though I don't call it that. You have Zuckerberg taking over Meta. You have the Ellisons taking over TikTok. And when you have that much power consolidated in just a few people, which is what really is happening, it is very difficult to see a situation years down the line where they're not kind of, you know what, let's move the algorithm a little bit to the left or to the right to kind of push the narrative. They have control over it. And in recent months, especially with the TikTok deal, Trump had floated that the United States could have a stake in TikTok. Now, I don't think that actually materialized, like the United States government. But that's moving closer to countries like China, where you have government control of platforms, which is even, it's socialism, right?
Yeah.
Number one, which they don't like apparently, but they like it when it benefits them. But number two, it begs the question of like, do we truly have an independent platform? And right now, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, it is, of course, very worrisome, and people can obviously, take a look. But I mean, this was like, talk about failures. I mean, this TikTok ban happened because folks and Democrats in Washington, D.C. got freaked out. Like from the reporting I've seen, that people were too sympathetic to the Palestinian cause on TikTok was a big part of it. And they decided that this company owned by China needed to be banned. And now, like, truly an own goal situation in which, like, now the Ellisons are going to have control of TikTok. It is just it's just so upsetting, and it just was not necessary. But here, like, again, a failure of the gerontocracy to understand these platforms and how they work and why they matter, and to understand the ins and outs of them. Anyway, that was my 1 minute rant on that.
A good rant.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We appreciate having you on to validate my rant.
I actually just want to zoom out for a moment, and and I'm not, this isn't like trying to rain on anyone's parade, but I am curious, like, do you think that sort of constant access to news headlines is healthy for people generally? And I know you've built your business on that, and I want to step back. I want to say, I think being informed is so important. But,
Yeah.
Do you think kind of constant access to news, do you think it motivates people to advocate and to take action? Or do you think it, because I've seen this too, causes people to sort of feel overwhelmed and almost paralyzed from taking action, and feel a little bit of despair? So I'm just kind of curious how you think about that.
It's actually both, and it really is person dependent.
Mm-hmm.
I think I agree with you. I think staying informed is the number one thing you could be doing in a time like this. And yet at the same time, I tell everyone it's okay to take a break. Like,
Yeah.
I'll always be there, but you don't have to. But I will say this. I think that a lot of it is a lot of the numbness and a lot of the kind of overwhelming feeling of like, oh my God, there's so much stuff happening, I don't want to do anything, doesn't come from the headlines, but rather comes from the leaders who actually don't do anything. Right? So, and that's the perspective I take on this. I think that if we had a Congress with the backbone,
Yeah.
you'd have a lot less people saying they feel overwhelmed and they don't want to do anything. If you had elected officials willing to actually campaign on and then fulfill promises, you wouldn't have people feeling as numb. So I think that, to me, is the bigger problem. But when you have a country where civics, media literacy, and ethics aren't taught in every school across the country, in every grade, and students aren't taught that learning growing up, you have to learn how to stay informed as an adult in this day and age, and you have to stay informed. The moment you're no longer informed is the moment misinformation starts to spread.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great point. And it actually reminds me, here in Florida, there was a bill that was heard yesterday that actually prohibits schools from, using any funds for political or social activism within schools. And to me, it's not about a party. I mean, it could be either party, any party, whatever. But I think actually helping students find ways to plug in and feel more engaged, that is what we should be teaching our children, at least part of it, and particularly in high school.
I agree with you, but even like that, to me, that bill could lead to someone saying, okay, we're not going to teach people what it means to vote, right? Like, that's the next step.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree with you.
Well, we talked about how healthy or not healthy it could be to consume so much media. What about you? I feel like I'm always seeing either an interview with you where you're like, I just don't stop, or, how are you doing? Like, are you ever going to get a break, Aaron?
One day. This is not a forever thing for me. It really isn't. I genuinely want to be a public defender at some point in life, and like, that is the goal. And so, listen, I almost became one after school, but apparently in Florida, you only get paid $36,000 a year to be a public defender, which is not a livable wage in Miami.
No.
Overworked, underpaid. And so I'd like to get to the point, like, my dream is to start a foundation where I can provide free legal services and take some burden off of public defense work across the country. And so that's the goal. And at some point I'll get there, just not today.
I love it.
I love that bigger goal too. But I also know you're a runner, right? You're training for a marathon?
Yeah, I'm running from my demons.
We all are, Aaron. We all are.
I am training for a marathon in October. I think I'm going to run the Marine Corps Marathon in DC.
Oh, that's definitely on my list. So that's good for you. Good for you.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I want to go from discussion of media just to a couple of there's just so much to talk about. I mean, and I am talking to the person who knows how many things there are to talk about. But one place in the current news environment where I feel like you've really, stood out and been incredibly vocal, and I know folks, myself included, are incredibly appreciative, is the Epstein files. And we are at some very bizarre standstill at the moment. Can you talk us through?
Is it bizarre?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's both like Occam's razor, like the most obvious thing. There's terrible stuff. They don't want to release it, so they're not releasing it. But I was just like wondering if you could talk to our audience and be like, how are we here? Aren't these files supposed to be out? Like, what's going on?
They are supposed to be out. There was a deadline, December 19th, to release all of the files, and then another deadline to provide Congress with a reason for why redactions were made. But the DOJ blew past that December 19th deadline. They released 13,000 documents. They have 2 million plus documents in their possession that they're still going through, and they haven't released them. Now, why are we here? Well, we're here because, truthfully, the way the law was written, it doesn't actually have much of an enforcement mechanism, right? If the DOJ violates the law, who's going to prosecute the DOJ? Right? I don't know. I mean, it really is a situation where you have to have the DOJ willing to hold itself accountable, and right now you don't. Now, there are efforts in the courts to try to get a special master or some kind of independent monitor. Those haven't really been working as well to oversee the DOJ. So I think we're all just in a waiting game of, okay, well, DOJ does have to follow the law. They do have to release this. They say they are going to release these files. I believe that they will release a lot of the files. When, I don't know, and how redacted they will be, I don't know. We could theoretically get 2 million pages of just black redactions in a month. I don't know. But I will say this. I think that a lot of the files the DOJ has in its possession, other parties have, right? So you have, like, the Epstein estate has the files, has many of those files. Some survivors have those files. And so I wouldn't be surprised if you saw other people releasing certain files if the DOJ doesn't. Now, the thing that the DOJ has in its possession that everyone wants to see, there are 3 really buckets of documents. The first are FBI 302s, interviews between survivors and FBI agents from 1996 to the present day. The second is a 98-page indictment that was drafted by the Southern District of Florida federal prosecutors to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein in Florida that was never filed. And then the third, which contains his 10 co-conspirators. And then the third is a memo drafted explaining why they didn't prosecute Epstein. Those are the 3 big documents that all the DOJ has in its possession that we're trying to get public. A lot of the other documents are going to become public in other ways, but those 3 documents are really what people are looking for.
That's really helpful for you to break down those things. And I guess that, like, you kind of just laid this out, but I'll just ask more explicitly. Like, the reason they are holding these up, in your opinion, do you think, like, there are some explosive documents? I mean, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it's like, and it's immaterial because the law says they have to release them. So explosive or not, they need to release them. But, like, in your opinion, do you, like, there is a there, and, like, it needs to be released?
Of course, there is a there. We've already seen explosive documents. And I say this, it's not about Trump. I don't know. There's no evidence, at least that's been publicly released, that he's done anything criminal regarding Jeffrey Epstein. But there are a lot of people, a lot of wealthy and powerful people outside of Trump who were involved in this. And so Democrat, Republican, Independent, it's time to release them all. And I think that there are some explosive documents, explosive photographs, some probably explosive videos as well that the public deserves to see with proper redaction.
I've got a question, thinking about what's going on with Epstein and the DOJ not doing, really what they're supposed to be doing. And I'm thinking about Venezuela, and I'm thinking about Greenland and tariffs and just all of this going on right now. When you are talking to different, politicians or elected officials, what sort of is their temperature? Like, does anyone say to you, maybe it's privately, maybe, like, this is crazy what's going on and we know it's not right? or what is kind of the temperature that you're feeling when you talk to elected people?
To be honest with you, they all feel defeated. Like it's a very sad state of affairs. Like Democrats feel like they can't do anything, that they're just getting pounded by people across the country for not doing anything, even though they don't have any power to do anything. And then Republicans feel like they can't do anything because they'll get a mean Truth Social post. Like it really is a defeatist mindset. And I will say this, I mean, I think that to anyone listening, I find it very odd often that, like, for example, there was a bill yesterday where to fund appropriations for DHS and ICE. And I said that anyone who votes for this, it kind of will be a litmus test heading into 2026 and then moving on. There was more attacks on the 7 Democrats who voted for this than the 200 Republicans who voted for it.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, what are you doing attacking your own party? Like, that doesn't make much sense to me, because the 7 Democrats who voted for it, now I'm not defending their vote. They can vote for whatever they want, however they want. But they're in these frontline districts where they need to win over Republican voters. And so they can't run on an abolish ICE message because they're going to lose. And then ultimately you're going to have Republican control in the House. So the smoke you're giving some of these Democrats, you should redirect that at the Republicans as well. Like, I don't know.
No, I mean, I agree with that in theory, but where I'll push back is, I think, you talk about defeatist mindset. I think like a lot of the, folks feel that defeated nature. And I think when they see people who are in theory, like, take out the nuance of the frontline districtness aside of it, and they see 7 people with a D next to their name voting for this, like, they're going to take that anger out, rightly or wrongly, for people who they think should be standing up with them. And again, like, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I also, like, I just have sympathy for people who are really angry and want people by their side and maybe don't, like, understand that nuance. So I don't know, that's kind of where I think people are coming from.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that. I just think that, like, I think a lot of people want Democrats to do something.
Yeah.
The same people who want Democrats to do something, Democrats can't do anything. Like, they don't have power to do anything. They can't impeach. They can't remove. They can't pass a bill if they wanted to today. They have zero control. And it's like, okay, like, what do you want them to do? Like, you want them to protest, and then when they protest, you get mad that it's just performative. I don't know what you want from them. I really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think anger is easy, but strategy wins the game.
For sure.
Reality.
100%.
Well, I like being angry. And so that is, I will go for that. I have one more question, then I'll throw to Steph. Going in, not that you're going to endorse anyone or anything like that, but I'm curious from your perspective of someone who I think, like, really understands this moment and also really understands, communication, social media. Like, are there any of these 2028 hopefuls that are catching your eye in terms of, like, okay, I respect what you're doing, I like where you're going?
Well, I think yes, but in, like, 2 categories. There are the ones that understand social media that are doing a good job, and then there are ones that are catching my eye because I think they'd be great 2028 candidates. Yeah. And I've seen kind of them out there. The ones that are doing a really good job on social media, I mean, obviously, like, someone like Gavin Newsom, he's fighting back. He's doing his thing. And if I had to guess, I think he'll be the Democratic nominee, and I don't think there's anyone who will be able to challenge him, honestly, today, just because of where he's at in terms of, like, name recognition, money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
The knee pads.
Yeah, I mean, do I agree with a lot of all of what he says and does? No, but I'm saying, like, there's no one else who could, like, theoretically rival him in that sense right now. Now, as far as, and then I also think, like, you could throw, like, AOC in that bucket if she decides to run. I don't know that she's going to run, though, so we'll see. But the 2028 candidates that I'm very hopeful for in terms of, like, let's see what they do over the next couple of years are people like Pritzker in Illinois. I think Pritzker has, like, he's a billionaire. He has a ton of money behind him. And he's, like, I interviewed him the other day, and he's a genuinely good guy. Mark Kelly in Arizona. I mean, I sat down with him too. Genuinely a good guy. Shapiro in Pennsylvania genuinely feels like he cares about the people. So there are a lot of good candidates. And then also, like, I like Gretchen Whitmer. I wish she would potentially throw her hat in the ring to see, like, what happens. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then there's the wild card of Kamala Harris, which I don't know that she's going to run again. But if she does, who knows?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of candidates, what advice do you have for candidates moving forward, whether you're running for, president or whether you're running for local school board? What advice do you have for candidates when it comes to the use of social media?
Talk to people like they're people. I mean, that's really it. Like, don't hire all these consultants. Just talk to people normally. Show them who you are, your true and authentic self, whether you're online or on the ground. I think. And I will say this, don't try to be Zohran Mamdani. like every candidate I talk to, they're like, I want to be the next Zohran. I'm like, you're not Zohran. Zohran is one of one.
Right.
He did great. He's like excellent at what he does. But like you running for school board in a red district in the middle of in Orange County, wherever, you're not gonna win on a Zohran message all the time. And most of these people can't get in front of a camera and be as charismatic as he is. So just be yourself.
Yeah.
Truly.
Well, Aaron, I can't tell you how grateful I am for your time. I hope you'll be able to get some rest at some point. But we appreciate what you do, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was great.
Appreciate you and your time, and so nice to meet you.
Likewise.